Art, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Maria.
So you and I have spoken before about the tax plan, and you know how I feel about that 15% corporate tax that Donald Trump is talking about. It's a big deal, and I think the markets are going to react to it if, in fact, they believe it. But I want to talk about trade here, because this is one area that really is controversial. If Donald Trump redoes NAFTA, redoes the deal with China, redoes all these trade deals, isn't that going to be more of a disruption than, in fact, a movement toward economic growth?
Well, it depends on how he does them, Maria. I mean, if he gets out all the protectionist measures that are built into some of those trade agreements, no, it could be very, very good. But if it's done and then he withdraws and it makes it more protectionism, it'll be very bad for America and for the rest of the world. Free trade is the answer. Unfortunately, Japan and China and some of these other countries have put in all sorts of non-tariff barriers into those agreements that should be removed. And if that's what he's going to do, it's great. If it's not, if he's going to go towards protectionism, that's a big, big mistake. But remember, trade has nothing to do with jobs. Okay, trade has to do with consumption and increasing the value of our income.
Trade has nothing to do with jobs. Okay,
nothing.
So and NAFTA, you think it's okay to be poo-pooing on NAFTA and perhaps looking to redo that one?
Well, NAFTA has problems in it as well, but if you're going to make them better, Maria, of course we want to do that. But if you're going to use this as an excuse to put on more protectionist measures, that's a killer.
So, this is Michael Yoshikami. What's wrong with increasing the tax rate for individuals making more than $5 million?
Because they won't work.
Why? Why not?
Because their tax rate goes up, they'll try. You know, look, if you have a 50% marginal tax rate, you're going to spend 50% of your time trying to figure out how to reduce your taxes. It's as simple as that. That's where the efforts go, and that's where the profits go. That's not what you want these people to do. You want them to work and pay a low-rate, broad-based, flat tax and get out of the tax game.
But if, in fact, we go to a 15% corporate tax rate, let's say the corporate tax rates go down. Okay, great news, right? If corporate tax rates go down, can't you then have people making more than a certain threshold, 5 million, whatever the number you happen to choose, as long as it's not middle class? I don't see, wouldn't that be a reasonable sort of offset?
What we know from the data is whenever we've raised tax rates on the highest income earners, the top 1%, revenues as a share of GDP go down and the economy does poorly. That's what we know. And every time we lower tax rates on the top 1% of income earners, we know that tax revenues from that 1% as a share of GDP goes up and the economy does well.
And not only
that's just the simple fact.
You're talking about 61%. So you're okay with that, even, yes, 5 million.
Which part?
61% of your income is going to the government. You got 44% on a federal level, another 10% state, and another 7% city and Obamacare. That's 61% of the highest earners.
But nobody pays 61%.
Well, that's not
right.
true.
That's what I'm saying.
They don't.
That's what I'm saying.
No, that's not true. Look at this. Look at this picture of Hillary Clinton's bracket. She's got 8 brackets here. And if you are in that category of over 5 million and you're paying a federal level of 43.6%, you will pay another 10% on state and another 7% on city and Obama. What are you saying that people are not paying that? I don't understand. You're saying hedge fund managers?
No, I'm talking about carried interest. I'm saying that basically if you're making $10 million and you pay another 5% rate, you're going to try to get your tax rate down as much as possible, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to have business expenditures, you're going to invest in business, you're going to have this fantastic corporate tax rate of 15%. It just
all the loopholes are going away, Michael. On both sides,
do we really
think
all
the loopholes away?
I don't think the loopholes are going away. You know, the other thing I wanted to ask is you made a comment here that's really important. I think I actually kind of surprised Maria if I read her body language correct. You said that trade is not a jobs killer. So this is being said on the campaign trail all the time. So it's going to be said somewhere today on the campaign trail. So tell us what you mean by that.
What happens with trade is it allows people to trade goods and services so they get a better consumption bundle. That's called the consumption gains from trade. What it also does is allow us to redirect the composition of our production such that we get more efficient worldwide production. We produce some things better than foreigners, and foreigners produce some things better than we do. We and they would be foolish in the extreme if we didn't sell foreigners those products we make better than they do in exchange for those products they make better than we do. It's a win-win-win situation for everyone. It's not about jobs. It's about allocating income and consumption and production to create diversity and variety in consumption. period.
Governor.
Art, don't you think that one of the things that people don't understand, the complexity of the tax code means that we're spending $500 billion a year on tax compliance, just figuring out how to do it. It doesn't produce a darn thing, a bunch of paperwork. Isn't that why it's so important to get a simplified tax code?
Exactly. John Childs and I did a paper together about 4 years ago or so, which we looked at the actual out-of-pocket compliance costs just for the income tax, corporate and personal. And I think it came out to 32 cents is spent for every dollar of tax you actually pay. That's an enormous wedge driven between what the taxpayer pays and what the government actually receives, and it doesn't account for all of the inefficiencies that we were mentioning earlier, like changing your portfolio and all that stuff.
Hey, Art, but Donald Trump's plan could be more simple, could it not? I mean, could he propose this child care tax deduction? Why add another deduction if you want to simplify the tax code? I know it's fewer tax brackets, but let's just clean it up altogether.
I agree with you. I mean, I think the flat tax should be Jerry Brown's flat tax that he ran on in 1992, 13% across the board from the first dollar to the last dollar in both personal and in business taxes. You can match all federal revenues at full employment with 12%, and this economy would go through the moon. No other taxes, no death tax, no capital gains tax, no corporate tax, no personal income, no payroll taxes, either employer or employee, no Medicare, Medicaid, no tariffs. All of that stuff gone with 2 flat rate taxes, and this economy will be selling cars in central China.
But that's not what we're talking about. So we're talking about 2 plans that are very different. This is the only deduction, right, in Trump's plan, the child care.
He keeps the mortgage interest deduction. He keeps some kind of, Art? He keeps the mortgage interest deduction. So some of the biggies.
I believe so. Yeah, but, you know, we should have the least amount of deductions possible, including child care, including all of the other deductions, because every time you eliminate one of those deductions, you get to lower the rate, which is where all the vig comes in creating jobs, open employment.
But